Good afternoon and welcome to our 7th Transforming Care report out and the last one for 2016. We need to just check in with Telford that they can hear us and give us a wave. That's Richard Stevens, our KPO colleague, looking after everybody over at Telford. So my name's Cathy Smith, I'm the Trust's KPO lead and this afternoon your chair and also workshop lead for the RPIW this week. And as it comes to the end of 2017, it's the right moment for us to pause and check that we are progressing to a self-sustaining improvement methodology here at SATH based on the Virginia Mason Institute methodology. And luckily for me, with our CEO Simon in the front row, the answer is yes, we are. In just over 1 year, all 4 of the KPO team specialists have now gained certification and accreditation to independently run RPIWs. We have 4 value streams launched: respiratory discharge, sepsis, recruitment and OPD ophthalmology. Our staff, who have embraced the opportunity to get involved in the RPIWs, have helped to make over 7,000 patient journeys safer and kinder. The changes have reduced the unnecessary walking for our staff by now over 3,000 miles. And we're also helping recruitment within the Trust. We are now starting to see both planned and natural rollout of many of the ideas. To help, we've established the Transforming Care Institute in the summer, where we teach the principles of Transforming Care Production System. Our TCPS is the English version, the SATH version of the American Virginia Mason Production System. And now, over 1,300 of our staff have accessed the training, and we continue to offer monthly sessions to our staff. And one of the tools and techniques that we teach in the Institute is the 5S model, because we want to make sure that the message doesn't go out that we spend most of our time tidying, because the 5S model is not tidying, it involves tidying, but it's a 5-step process to ensuring that we have a safer environment. It's a key component that helped take Virginia Mason Institute to one of the safest hospitals in the USA. Their reflection is, if they'd done anything different, they would have done more 5S. So it's a very important component of what we do, and we teach it in the Institute. If you don't know enough about it for what you want to do, please come and access it. The Institute also enables us to provide the Lean for Leaders course for about 40 leaders each year. And Chris Fisher, also in the front row, is one of those leaders who will share some of his work with you this afternoon. The KPO team also coordinates 5 Gemba walks each month. And if you'd like to join us, please phone Rachel on, she's at the back waving at you, 3104, and she'd be delighted to involve you in those walks. But apparently you also want more, you want to hear more, we've heard. So next Wednesday, 11 till 12, in the old Link dining room, which is the transformation room now, the innovation suite, I should say, we will be offering you cake and coffee and share some of those ideas from all the previous RPIWs, so do come along. So at the end of our year, our report is not a bad start for a new team, but must try harder. We must not lose the momentum next year. So next, we want to hear from Edwin. So we will just link him up. Edwin will explain where he is, but he is our executive sponsor for the sepsis pathway. And he wants to speak to you ahead of the RPIW report out. Then we'll hear later from Louise and the update with the 120-day report out for the second sepsis RPIW from Chris, and then we'll conclude with reflections from Simon.
Hello everyone, I'm really sorry that I can't be joining you in hearing the great results that this week's RPIW team have achieved. Today's the day that I have my appraisal with NHS England, and well, you know how important appraisals are. I hope you've done yours for this year. What's been really interesting is that NHS England and many other organisations have been really interested in just what we have managed to achieve in our trust in improving the care of patients with sepsis. the first RPIW by our colleagues at PRH-AMU really led the way in terms of screening patients and identifying patients who potentially might have sepsis. By doing that, they'll have helped us to get to patients more rapidly who do have that awful condition. The second RPIW was at RSH-SAU, and our colleagues there came up with brilliant ideas for how we can treat patients more quickly and more reliably. Combination of those two means we'll be saving more people's lives from a condition where there's a real risk of mortality. But we're looking to spread the good news. And the RPIW from this week is to say, well, okay, so those were the patients coming into the acute units. What about patients who are already in all of the hospital wards? I really wanted to hear what our colleagues from Ward 28 were going to come up with. And having met many of them, I know how dedicated they've been to the work that they were going to be doing. So you get to hear about it before I do, but I hope someone's going to tell me very soon so that I can find out the good work that the team's done. Over to the team.
I can take this moment to also tell you that Claire Woolsgrove, who has been very supportive as sponsor for the actual RPIW, has unfortunately been ill all week and not able to make it. So she has been updated by text and Twitter, but still is a bit infective, I think, so best to stay away. Okay. Right. So as workshop lead, I can start the sharing of the week's Rapid Process Improvement workshop. But before we do that, I'd like you just to bear in mind when the team talk that they undertake 1,500 observations each week on average, 1,500. So when they talk about making small improvements, we can times that up quite significantly. And so that was one of the revelations this week, was just how many of the observations they do take. So also, please bear in mind that every one of our speakers has learnt for the first time over the last 5 days the methodology of our production system. They've generated those ideas, they've tested them in Ward 28 with our patients and with their colleagues, and they've sought and received very honest feedback as they then developed those ideas. They've then measured the change and they put in place standard work before leaving at the end of the week to come and report out to you in a cycle time of just 15 minutes. The boundaries for this RPIW is from the observation, which is abnormal and may suggest a deteriorating patient requiring assessment to exclude or confirm sepsis and give that provisional diagnosis. The RPIW process that we've studied did involve significant variation, non-value-adding activity, waiting and frustration for our patients, their families and for our colleagues. The away team has dug deep into the process to understand it, and even deeper into cupboards and corridors to bring a new order to the ward. I must acknowledge Nick's flexibility as a team lead this week. This team have been so energetic and so determined. They've had so many tests taking place that I wasn't sure who was leading the team, but you'll see that it all came together, and our trust in the team and in the process has really paid dividends.
Hello everybody, my name is Nick Holding. I'm a Senior Specialist in the Kaizen Promotion Office. It's also been my great honour this week to be Team Leader for this RPIW. The great Toichi Ono once said, without standards there can be no improvement. So the success of our week is measured by a number of key metrics. In order to carry out patient observations and dispatch samples, staff were walking 105 steps. We were set target to reduce this by 62%. Collecting observation machines to make them available for the patient was taking 34 steps. Our target was for this to be 16 steps. The lead time for our patients to receive a provisional diagnosis from the time they have their observations was taken at 251 minutes. We were tasked with reducing this to under an hour. Our initial observations highlighted a number of defects in the process. 100% of patients did not have a screening tool used during their assessment, 12% of patient observations were late, and 100% of sequent audit forms were not completed. All defect metrics have a 0% target. Finally, 5S levels for the ward corridor and storeroom were at level 1, both having targets of level 4. We calculate tack time by taking time available and dividing by demand. Our tack time was 42 minutes, which is the pace we should work to. The current state value stream map shows the journey of our patients. Our boundaries are from patient observations to when the patient received a provisional diagnosis of sepsis. The Kaizen bursts, which are opportunities for improvement, which are seen here in the clouds, show us where we find waste in the process, and the numbers in between the cycle boxes show delays and waits. The overall lead time was 251 minutes, and the total value adding time was 12%.
My name is Amy Cope and I'm a pharmacist at PRH. The issue was that staff were having to take numerous steps to collect equipment needed to take diagnostic samples when a patient was identified as being potentially septic. We had an idea to use PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act, and Setup Reduction to create a sepsis diagnostic box. This would contain equipment needed to obtain samples to help confirm the sepsis diagnosis. We have developed a standard process description sheet for the use and replenishment of the box so that it is always ready to use. Using PDSA and just-in-time methodology, we have developed the contents of the box so that it is not overstocked and you can't find items. The box is sealed, which is a visual tag to show if the box is not complete. Sepsis diagnosis is time critical and we have reduced the time to get samples taken and sent for analysis, which shall help with decreasing mortality rate.
Hello, my name is Carla and I'm a KPO facilitator. There was no storage for strip stands and they were cluttering the corridor. We went looking for space and found a cupboard which we could use. Using the 5S principles, the area was sorted and marked and labelled and a standard process description was produced for staff to use. Currently, the 5S achievement is level 2. Using the waste walk, we identified that staff in bays 4 and 5 were wasting valuable patient time walking to the nurse's station to use the phone and computer. The idea to solve this was to have a hot desk with a PC and phone. The computer on wheels was broken and there was no spare phone. IT and Switch kindly loaned them to us so we could PDSA this. Currently, there is a hot desk as you come into the ward with a telephone and useful numbers and bleeps for staff. We have received great feedback from staff on this.
Good afternoon, my name is Will. I am the charge nurse of Ward 28. I am the process owner. One of the problems on ward is the corridor, which is a barrier to flow, resulting in delays in treating patients and for staff movements. So with the problem, we apply the principle of 5S. So we sort, simplify, sweep, standard, and self-discipline to improve the environment. So what did we test? First, we relocated all the medical notes in the right places and decluttered the corridor, and identified the necessary to unnecessary. So now there's a free-flowing movement in the corridor and some great feedback from the staff, and they use standard work from the team.
Hello, I'm Hilly and I'm a staff nurse on Ward 28. An issue we had was the nursing note paperwork was unorganised and the doctors and pharmacy had difficulty finding the patient's paperwork. In the bay there was no obs machines or vital pack, which meant staff had to walk up and down the ward trying to locate the equipment. We also found there was nothing in the bay to remind patients of the staff's name, which led to delay and variation in the patient's care. To solve this problem, we created visual controls by colour-coding nursing notes, drug cards and notes trolleys for each bay. We also put a vital pack and obs machine with charging points in each bay and signs inside the bay which stated the nurse and healthcare's name for the day and night shift. We tested it by asking feedback from the staff on how they felt it would work and anything they felt we could improve upon. The results were that we improved flow and reduced steps. When we started, it took 34 steps to do an observation, and by the end of the week, it went down to 8 steps. The feedback from the staff was that they loved having the equipment in the bay and saved so much time and kept them closer to their patients. The patients felt that the name board in the bay was a lot better because they could remember everybody's names.
Hello, my name is Nikki and I work on Ward 28 as a healthcare assistant. One of the problems we had was that blood cultures were taking too long to submit, so we used the 5 why process to find out why. Why were samples delayed? There was a delay in arriving at the lab. Why was there a delay? Pod wasn't being used. Why was the pod not being used? The lab says we can't. Why does the lab say we can't? Because blood cultures are in glass bottles and will smash. Why don't staff know that plastic culture bottles can be podded? Because instructions on the pod say we use for blood cultures. So all blood culture bottles are now plastic and can be sent off in the pod. Blood sample results are guaranteed to come back within the hour. New labels have been put on the pod and in the doctor's office. A 1-minute brief is also available to alert and remind staff.
Hello, my name is Sharon. I'm a sister in radiology. We found that the ward had no system in place for that early recognition of sepsis. The Sequin audit tool, developed by SATH consultants, alerted staff to its use by the VitalPack IC triangle. We adjusted the format so that it became a combined sepsis recognition and Sequin audit tool. Staff were alerted by new red or orange IC triangles and an increase of the early warning score. The form gives guidance to a decision of clinical assessment and commencement of the Sepsis 6 bundle. A sticker of Sepsis 6 will be placed in the notes for mistake proofing. Guidance posters have been placed around the ward and any concerned staff can start these forms off. Within 2 days we went from 100% defect rate to 30%. The staff were alerted to 7 suspected cases of probable sepsis. Continuing use of the Sequin audit tool can earn the Trust up to £340,000. We hope it can save our patients' lives too.
Hello, my name's Gillian. I'm an Assistant Business Manager in the Medicine Centre. Conversations with staff on Ward 28 identified the lack of awareness, knowledge and understanding of the symptoms of sepsis, despite the introduction of a sepsis work booklet on the first RPIW for sepsis. We decided to develop the booklet further and also devise a staff information sheet. The information sheet will be handed out to each staff member to read and keep for reference. The sepsis work booklet, now introduced on Ward 28, will include a sign-off sheet for both the staff member and the manager, and a record log will be used to ensure all staff members have completed it. We discussed the changes to be made with corporate education and the options available to have the work booklet and sepsis awareness included on the statutory training programme. Future plans include the introduction of a link worker to promote awareness further, and this week Eileen Anderson has kindly agreed to be the patient representative sepsis champion. The end result will be a greater understanding of sepsis on Ward 28, early recognition of symptoms, actions to take, and ultimately will result in a life saved.
Hello, my name's Lauren and I'm a healthcare assistant on Ward 28. We found that many of Ward 28 staff, including myself, knew very little about sepsis and its symptoms, and we were unaware of what we could do to make a difference and who had the necessary skills when we needed them. To battle sepsis, we need awareness, knowledge and teamwork. There is now information around the ward entrance and the corridor about sepsis and the symptoms, accessible to staff and the public, and the sepsis flowchart we created simply shows how each individual can help and what our role is. Our ambition is to make sure every staff member knows that they can contribute towards the timely diagnosis of sepsis. We created a ward skills map which is easily accessible and provides a mistake-proofing tool. Moving forward, with the time we have saved through the 5S, PDSA and standard work, together we want to create a movement to keep raising awareness throughout this trust. Along with education and using the sepsis work booklet, we created the hashtag #SathAgainstSepsis to promote that we will act against sepsis and that everyone can help save lives.
On the first day, we as a team, we created a process flow chart. This depicts the process flow as it's currently happened. So as you can see by the pink post-it, there is a lot of waste. We also created a process at a glance chart, where you can see many waste has been eliminated. The future state's value stream map shows that we have delivered a number of cases and opportunities and improved the process.
So it's really been an incredible week for us, and it's my pleasure to be able to share with you the results of our efforts. Our target progress report shows the number of steps the team on Ward 28 now take to carry out patient observations and dispatch samples has reduced by 43%. The team have reduced the distance to collect an observation machine by 76%, and the lead time for our patients to receive a provisional diagnosis has reduced by 36%. The use of the sepsis screening tool and the use of the sequin audit form have both improved from 0% to 70%. The 5S score for the ward corridor and the storeroom were both at level 1, and these have improved to level 2.
So as an overview, the team get together to deal on how to identify the early recognition on the signs and symptoms of sepsis leading to the quicker diagnosis. So the team generated over 50 ideas to help this. And with this incredible support from the home team in Ward 28, my role as a process owner is to continue the work. The newspaper has been developed to support this, which will be completed within 30 days.
So that just leaves me to say some thank yous to all of those people on the screen behind me, but also many more that have supported us this week. Before we do an RPIW, there is at least 6 weeks of preparation before, and Wilf and Pauline have done a tremendous job in preparing their team for us, because you can imagine going into a busy ward and disrupting everything. We're not always making their day much easier, but between Pauline and Wilf, they've done a tremendous job, and we were greeted with smiles and encouragement, which is just amazing. Thank you. Just wanted to tell you about lessons learned, but also just share a figure with you. The team have reduced the number of steps by 39,000 in a week, just by those improvements that they've made that have been hard fought, but 39,000 steps reduced. And if we've got our calculations right, that's 19.5 miles a week. And looking at a fairly fast pace, because you watch the nurses and the healthcare assistants whizzing around the ward, that would equate to nearly 8 hours of walking in a week. So what they have done between them is release 8 hours of time to care, 8 hours to be in the bay, looking at the patients, looking for signs of deterioration and sepsis that we're all hunting to find. So they need to be very proud of the work that they've done. And so the lessons learned are on the screen behind, but the one I wanted to pull out is the 5S, sort, simplify, standardise, sweep, and the self-discipline, which is so hard. That's why we go back and measure. That's why they can't get a level 4 in a week, because it needs evidence that that standard has been maintained for a month. Brings order, increases safety, and reduces the burden of work on our staff. So there are more of us doing 5S, the easier we will make our colleagues' lives. So that's the invitation to next week's drop-in, and then we're going to move on to Louise to update us on a previous RPIW. Okay, welcome Louise.
Hello, I'm Louise Brennan. I'm a Kaizen Promotion Office Specialist, and I'm reporting out the 120-day remeasures on behalf of Andrea Wharton, who is the process owner for the second Sepsis Rapid Process Improvement Workshop. The focus of the RPIW is the delivery of the sepsis bundle for patients within the SAU at Shrewsbury Hospital. I'm delighted to report the 120-day remeasures demonstrate the success of the RPIW, and that the team on SAU have truly engaged with the work and helped to sustain the implementation of improvements. The development of the sepsis trolley, the antibiotic drawer and the sepsis checklist has enabled the delivery of the sepsis bundle to be consistent, safe and efficient. The steps staff have to take to access the essential equipment and antibiotics has been reduced by 62%, and through PDSA the team have relocated the sepsis trolley so it's more accessible and also has heightened the awareness of the trolley. Due to the visibility of the sepsis trolley within the ward area, this has supported the increase of the daily checking of the trolley. This means that the trolley is always ready for use. The sepsis checklist is being used for each septic patient, and all septic patients on SAU now have a documented plan of care. The lead time for the delivery of the sepsis bundle is 30 minutes and antibiotics are given within 20 minutes. This is a considerable reduction from the original baseline of 296 minutes, and this has been sustained for 120 days. During the last 120 days, the SAU team have continued to PDSA the work. The continuous improvement has helped to sustain the remeasures. The sepsis trolley has become a celebrity in its own right and has had visits from the NHS Improvements team and Baroness Cumberledge. With the support of the Valley Stream sponsor team, the sepsis trolley is now to be rolled out and trialled at the emergency department in Telford. I'd like to thank the SAU team for engaging with the methodology and demonstrating the trust values of making it happen.
Hello, I'm Alan Jackson. I'm work in the pathology department here at Royal Shrewsbury. What an easy job it is to be a sponsor of a Rapid Improvement Week. It's just staggering, isn't it? Four months on, and the task set was to deliver antibiotics within an hour, which is a sort of UK, that's what everyone's aiming for in the UK, up and down the country, and we've smashed it. We've smashed it. We're getting antibiotics in 20 minutes, and in fact the whole bundle in half an hour, and that is really, really excellent news. So that's how easy my job has been, just watching the work go on the ward. I think I was talking to Andrea, the process owner, this week, and I said I did ask her, have you got any concerns if when I'm standing here in 12 months' time about why you might not be saying the same things to me? And she had to think quite a bit, because I think quite a lot of it is already embedded. But she did say, well, we will get new doctors on the ward, and we've got to engage them. But I think the flip side of that is that the team on the ward, are now fully engaged, and also it's their ideas that have been put into place. So they've got ownership of those ideas, and they really want them to work. And I think that's a key part of it, and we've seen that repeated again by the good work that these people have done. All of those ideas are coming from the people at the coalface. It's not us telling them what to do, and I think that's another really key thing as well. So I just say thank you very much for the team. It's been a great year for me being involved in this. I'm looking forward to next year. Just going off piste a little bit, if anybody wants to watch a film over the Christmas period, Starfish, this was in cinemas from October, I'm plugging this, in cinemas from October 28th. It's a powerful story of a sepsis survivor, and it's supported by the UK Sepsis Trust. So if you get a chance to see that, then do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Chris Fisher. I'm the head of catering for the Trust, and I just wanted to share with you some work that we've been doing in catering at Telford over the past few weeks. So following on from the training that I've had, I wanted to try and get that down to supervisors and managers more on the shop floor, so it's not just me doing all the work. So we decided to look at the process of loading a patient food trolley in the kitchen for one service, and we engaged the supervisors by getting them to come up with 7 ideas on how they could improve that process. We then talked about how we could measure an improvement, and they came up with time, distance travelled, and the number of defects in the process. So we started off with each supervisor mapped the route that they did, and this is an average of the walking that was involved with just loading one lunchtime service.
Get ready for this.
Yeah, there's a lot. As you can see, they were doing a bit of... So we then timed it. We timed the process quite a few times and averaged it out, and it gave a result of lunch had an average of 41 minutes time, and dinner with an average of 31 minutes time. When we observed it, we realised that lunch was being loaded in different batches, more batches than supper, and that the layout of the trolleys in the kitchen had a different layout from lunch to supper. So we standardised the layout on both lunch and supper, and standardised the number of batches for lunch and supper. And then we planned the ideal walking route, and we walked with every member of staff that does the process to explain it to them, and they now walk like this. Just a bit of a difference. So what it's done, they came up with 22 ideas. We've only so far managed to do 3 of them. But it's already shown a reduction of approximately 10 minutes at lunch and 5 minutes on dinner. And I think more than anything, what it's done is it's engaged the staff below. So they keep coming up to me now saying, Chris, can we start doing this? Can we look at this? Can we look at that? So that, at Telford, all the catering staff are on board. So it's been really positive. Thank you.
I think this is where we go. The team decided to refer Father Christmas, Simon.
I was wondering what I was going to get.
We found an artist in our team.
I
Lauren.
might be able to guess, yeah. Okay, well, afternoon everybody. Art aside, and I enjoyed the spaghetti diagram, Chris. That was a great reveal. Where do you start with this? Well, one of the things that strikes me, having stood here on a number of occasions to reflect on the work of the teams, and anybody who's done an RPIW knows it's hard work. You know, it's hard work, and the team have done a fantastic job. But the thing that impresses me the most is that in our organisation, and I think this is probably true of the health service, a lot of change is often done to staff, not with staff. And the power of what we're describing, I think, is the fact that this is about the teams supporting each other respectfully to make changes. And I heard the words being said about feeding back, seeking advice, listening to what the teams were saying, making adjustments. So this is a two-way process. And how rare is that in the NHS, where often you get things imposed upon you, and we wonder why that doesn't stick, why it's so hard to make change a reality. So that's something that I wanted to just reflect on in terms of our journey, that this is absolutely the right way to be delivering changes in our organisation. Ward 28, if I can start with Ward 28. Ward 28 is a very hard ward. Anybody who's been on that ward will know it's very large, busy environment, some very poorly patients, very acute environment. And it has its challenges because of that, in terms of staffing, in an environment where staffing is difficult anyway. And so to be able to do an RPIW, to be able to support the teams to make these changes happen in an environment like that is not easy. And I just wanted to celebrate the team, both home and away, for their efforts in making that happen, because I realised, having been onto the area and onto the ward next to you, just how busy that environment is. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for that. It was a bit of a revelation to me that we do 1,500 observations a week. That came as a bit of a shock. So Saskia, I can see you there. I don't know whether that surprises you, but it seemed a huge amount to me. So I'm getting a sense of where the challenges sit. But there were a few things I wanted to highlight. So we talk about steps a lot when we're doing these sessions, and I often wonder whether people, whether they register really the importance of that. And it was brought home to me when I was chatting to the team on Ward 9 at Telford earlier in the week. And one of the things that they were saying to me was that the improvements that they've made and the reductions in walking that they're doing, what they've been starting to find is that they're having time to talk about non-clinical things to the patients. You know, those small gestures that do make a difference when you're frightened and you're in an environment like ours. So not just the fact that it's tiring work working in the organisation, so reducing the mileage can only be helpful in that regard, but the ability to be able to have the gift of time and be able to speak to the patients a little bit more because of that time is something that we should never take for granted. So that was an important message. Huge amount of change. I mean, I think you get gold stars for that. You've done lots and lots of change in the environment in the course of a week. And a few of the things that sort of step out. I mean, it's interesting that a ward that has so many sepsis patients, now we're investing in the training and the recognition for the staff so that they can understand their role in terms of supporting that group of patients. And it is important to remind ourselves that 4 or 5 patients a month die from sepsis in our organisation.
So these things are really, really important. The blood culture bottle was a really good example of computer says no. You know, it's an amazingly simple thing, isn't it? And yet we don't do it. You know, so that's a great example, and I'll lay money that there'll be other wards that'll be going away thinking we need to make these changes on the back of this. So I thought that was fantastic. Love the hashtag. I'm getting a bit better at Twitter, not much, but I'm trying. But so I will be using that. So well done. That's fantastic. And I think the 5S process is something that I would encourage those of you that perhaps have not had a go at this work to dip your toe in the water. 5S is something that does make a difference, and it's relatively straightforward in this sort of package of things that we're seeking to do. So maybe I'll have a chat with Kathy and Nick and the team, and we can help you to explore that. So very, very pleased with the improvements and the fact that when we think about sepsis, what we're saying now is the organisation wasn't recognising routinely patients with sepsis. It wasn't treating them with antibiotics within the designated times. We were lucky if we were getting the bundles done within 5 hours, never mind an hour. We weren't training the staff so they had a better understanding and recognition of the seriousness and the complications and the requirements that we would need to be able to identify patients that would have or could have sepsis. And here we are 4 months later talking about environments that are uncluttered, organised, where we've got staff in bays that are supporting the ward rounds so that they feel more personally engaged in what's happening to their patients. Their environments are better for them. They're getting trained so they understand the importance of what we're trying to achieve in saving lives for patients with sepsis. And they're reducing the amount of time that they're walking about in order that they can spend more time with our patients in 4 months. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's fantastic. So I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. Alan, where are you, Alan? Alan, yeah, you are absolutely right to be proud of the team. I think the work that's being done is fantastic, and we should be celebrating this, and we need to think about as we move forward and we start to group together the work as we reach that point where we will have completed our RPRWs from all of the areas that we've targeted, that we think about how we do that. So that might be something we want to explore and celebrate with the organisation as a whole, the efforts of the team. So antibiotics in 20 minutes, fantastic. I was talking to Catherine McLean, who's the Medical Director for NHS Improvement. No other hospital in the NHS is doing that. Not a single one. Not King's, not Christie's, not Great Ormond Street. All these notable names that we all know and occasionally see on the news, we occasionally feature, of course. None of them are doing this, but you are. So you should be very proud of yourselves and your success. I certainly am. And I just wanted to finish with Chris and the catering team. The spaghetti diagram was fantastic, wasn't it? And I think, you know, when you talk to patients, usually what they tend to say, there are 3 things that the patients tend to talk to us about: car parking, whether or not the staff and generally we're polite, you know, the kind of kindness component, and the food. You know, often they'll talk about other things, but those things tend to crop up. People understand those things. So I'm really pleased that we're doing some work in terms of our catering teams, who often are invisible to the rest of the organisation because of where they work. So it's great to be able to celebrate their efforts, and I'm really pleased that we're doing that. And to be able to have them engage in this process and to be coming to you with these ideas in the way that they are is fantastic, and that's what we want. So well done, Chris. That's really powerful stuff. We will be rolling out our second cohort for Lean for Leaders in a few months' time, and that'll be another 40 members of staff who'll have the opportunity, as Chris is, to be able to get a little bit better understanding of what we're doing and to share it with their teams, to be able to enjoy the opportunities that Chris and his team are having to make a difference to the patients and to the staff's work regimes. So have a little think about who you might want to recommend to Kathy and the team, so that, again, we make sure we've got the right balance of people in that group. Okay. So I want to close by saying we've got some interesting artists in the KPO team, so thank you for their efforts.
They were the away team.
Oh, were they? The away team. Oh, right. Okay. Thank you very much. And really, just to say that here we are, nearly at the end of our first calendar year of this work, and there are some tremendous improvements. And I know we've got so much more that we need to do, and I know there are parts of the organisation that feel like they're on fire, particularly in the winter. But I really believe that this is going to make the difference for our organisation. It's going to calm down the chaos, and we're seeing that. And we've heard some wonderful examples on Ward 28 where they're doing that in a very busy environment. So thank you very much. Thank you. So we've got some certificates.
Yeah. Just while you're lining up for certificates, just a request to everybody, the team would love you to complete the sepsis booklet, and then if you tweet or you're on Facebook, if you could post that so that we can pick it up either in the KPO team or on the SASH Twitter. Twitter? Went to SASH then for a moment.
You've moved organisations.
Yes, I did. Apologies. But I think we have some people in the audience that have already completed it, I believe. It's our friends from EBME. You already? Could you hold them up and we can give them a round of applause because they've already... As a team, they've already done that, and I know some of you have as well.
Okay, so can we celebrate with the team from Ward 28 and their hard work during the RPIW? So, Mimi.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you with our next report out in January, which will be back to the respiratory discharge process, and we will be working with AMU at PRH and Ward 9 to look at the handover of patients who have respiratory conditions who go from AMU to Ward 9. Thank you all, and Merry Christmas.